I thought to myself, I said to my friend, I said, these guys are amazing, but we missed the boat. You know, the guy that made this 3 minute thing. I mean, he's got to be doing a longer piece. And she said, you don't know this. I mean, I was ready to just say, forget it. I mean, I know he's doing a longer piece on these two guys. She said, you don't know that. She said, call them. And I said, okay, I will. And I did. And it turned out the guy was not doing a longer piece. He just did this short 3 minute piece. So by this time, because it was on the New York Times, there were already other production companies that were pursuing them. So I immediately got on a plane and I flew down there from Chicago, flew down to, they live outside of Fort Lauderdale, and met Saul in a deli, and he had lunch, and we talked business, and he agreed to go with me. I was ready to start filming immediately. I was going to take my own funds. I wasn't going to take time to try and raise funding. I felt like this is a story that happens immediately because we don't even know how long these guys are going to live. So that's how it started. He agreed, and then I met with Ruby. Ruby agreed, and we didn't know where the story was going to go, but I thought there were some really interesting elements. And this is, oh, hold on, my view just changed here.
Yeah, I just spotlighted you.
Oh, don't, because then I have to stare at myself.
Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, I want to stay in gallery. Is that okay for you guys? Does that mess up what
Fine.
you're seeing?
Yeah, it's okay.
We're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the spotlight. Then I'm just staring at myself talking. So I actually like to move myself off the screen. So I'm just looking at you guys.
Yeah, this is fine.
Okay, good. So, where was I? That totally distracted me.
Sorry.
Okay. That's okay. I forgot where I was, but anyway.
You were self-funding, I think.
Oh, the funding issue. Yeah. So I'm hearing other noises. Is it? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I just was ready to go immediately on the project and just fund it myself and see where it goes. And what I was going to say is that this is how I tend to do most of my projects that aren't assignments. Projects that I generate myself, I like to just start with a story and see where it goes. And what I was about to say earlier also is that I saw lots of elements in this story that I thought were potentially going to play out in a very interesting way. For instance, their wives were very ill. And I had a feeling that I really was interested in the relationships with their wives. I mean, Clara, Saul's wife, was also a survivor. So they had that connection. And and Ruby's wife, while she wasn't a survivor, I mean, she had served in the Israeli army. She was originally an Egyptian. She was a Jew from Egypt, and ended up in Israel. But I thought there were going to be interesting things that would happen with the wives, and sadly, they died. And then there was the opportunity to look at, so how do they deal, with this terrible loss? And then, as I said before, there's the issue of music that I wanted to explore, and then of course there's their backstory, their whole story of, will they make it to Poland? This was their goal, and what impact will that have, on them when they go there? So those were the things I was thinking about.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do one more question and then I can open up.
Sure.
I'm sorry, everybody. So you just talked about that there were so many elements in the movie that you wanted to explore, and I'm wondering if there are some parts of the movie that didn't make it into the movie that you would really like maybe to talk about, or like to tell us about, that you think would have been in the movie but maybe ended up not being in the movie.
Yeah, there were. I mean, just to give you a sense of when you shoot this is called a longitudinal documentary. So that means it's a documentary that is filmed over years. This was filmed over 2.5 years, which is actually for me one of my shorter films. I did a film on an African American family here in Chicago that was 5 years. I did another film um, on two African American guys starting in their last year of high school and following them through all through college. That was a 5.5 year film. So anyway, this was 2.5 years. You end up shooting a lot of footage. You're shooting and shooting and shooting because you don't know what the story is and you don't know what you're going to need. And the powerful scenes in documentary are made up of moments. So you keep the camera rolling. It's a pretty brutal process. You got your camera on your shoulder all day and you're rolling, and you have to stay very alert. So I ended up shooting 250 hours of footage, and we cut that down. We cut that down to 80 minutes. So it's less than 1% of our footage was used. So you can imagine how many images and scenes and moments I had to leave on the cutting room floor. There were a number of very, very powerful moments in Poland that I would have liked to have included, but it would have been too much. They were very emotional moments. There was a scene where they went to Treblinka, and Saul was not sure when his parents were taken away. I mean, they were literally, first his mom was taken away from their apartment in Krakow, just like that, just taken out. He wasn't around, and he doesn't know where she died. And the same with his father and his sister. They were being grabbed off the street. He saw them being grabbed off the street and actually was running to them to join them. And it was either a Polish policeman or a German policeman stopped him and said, "Go back to your work. You're not going over there." And he said, "But those are my parents." And I guess this policeman was basically was saving his life. The policeman must have known they're being taken away and they're not coming back. So he had a sense that they were taken to Treblinka. So Treblinka, it was a very emotional scene of them walking. I don't know if any of you've been to Treblinka, but it's a very barren field that you're walking through with just stone. It's not like Auschwitz where all the buildings, most of those buildings are still standing and they've been preserved, and you see the camp. Treblinka is more like a graveyard. It's like you're walking through a graveyard just with stones, and then as you walk down this path, there's this monolith stone that was built, and it's a place of prayer. And there's a big crack, and you can put candles in there and prayers in there. And Saul and Ruby, I followed them as they walked up to this crack, and it started to rain. It was a gloomy day on top of it, and they were weeping, and it was a powerful, powerful scene. But it would have been too much. It would have been overboard in the film. It didn't have a place. So, and there was another scene. I won't go into such detail. Just at Auschwitz, where again it was in Birkenau, and they were among the ruins, and they were reciting Kaddish for the dead, and again, very emotional, weeping, crying, talking about the millions that are gone. So there were scenes like that that I thought were incredibly emotional and powerful, and I would have liked to have included, but it didn't have a place. There were some rehearsal scenes that were hysterical that I would have liked to have included, but again, it would have been too much. I mean, you have to keep the story moving. How many funny rehearsal scenes are you going to have? I mean, so just many things like that, you know.
Thank you. And I'd like to open it to anybody who has questions and comments about the movie.
I talk,
Yes.
Hi, Steven.
it's Steve. So we read that Saul and Ruby are no longer friends. And I'm just astonished by that, watching them in the movie. And by the way, I thought the movie was sensational.
Thank you.
And I wish you had made a section of outtakes to put the things in that you didn't think were appropriate, because for me, they would have been wonderful to see, good and the bad.
True. Maybe someday that'll happen. I have them. I have all the footage and I have the outtakes. So maybe someday that'll happen. They're not going anywhere. As far as the friendship thing goes, that was true for a period of time. Thankfully, gratefully, they have actually repaired the break that they had in their friendship. But they did have a break, and actually, I was filming part of it. I continued filming past Poland, and it was after Poland, and they came back that they had some disagreements about things. I can't go into the details of it. It wouldn't be right for me to share that, but they just had some disagreements, and this is very common among band members as well. They have disagreements, egos get in the way, and things like that. So they did have that, and they did come back together. They have repaired it. They don't play together as much. Saul has formed his own band, but they have played together on a lot of these Zooms. They've played together, and if there was another screening in a theater, they would play together like that. But Saul is, as you could tell in the film, is quite the ambitious macher, and that's his. He's a man does not stop. I mean, he's turning 96 at the end of this month, and he's the same as I met him at 90, and he was off the wall, bouncing around, and he's the same. It's unbelievable. I mean, I hope I get some of whatever he has.
Yeah, and I thought the way the two of them handled their wives' deaths was admirable.
How do you mean? How do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, it's enough for one guy to see his wife gone, but for the other guy, what was it, a week or two later, something like that, and they both went.
Correct.
And I thought that was heart-wrenching for the two of them, and it goes into the breakup, because I had thought after the two of them had made a movie and they lived with the death of their collective wives at the same time, they would be inseparable until they were put in the ground together.
Well, I think that's why they did the repair. I think that's why they did the repair. They were very close, but they also have very different personalities. And in some ways that works for them, because I think having two Sauls trying to be friends together would be a disaster, as you could tell. So the fact that Ruby is more contained and more held back, has a smaller ego, I mean, that definitely created a better balance. But I think that the love, what they went through together, what you just said, the loss of their wives together, the journey together, the playing the music together, the movie, created enough of a bond that they decided let's get over this. Let's repair this. So yeah, that was hard to see them separate after they got back from Poland, but it was ego stuff. It was tied to ego.
Lesson to be learned.
Yes.
Well, thank you for the answer.
Absolutely. Any other questions out there? Thoughts,
Film was
criticisms?
wonderful. So thank you so much. It made me laugh. It made me cry. It was incredible. What struck me was the intimacy you were able to create with these characters, with the camera going all the time, and you're capturing these poignant moments, very sensitively done. So how did you manage that to create this sense of trust and intimacy? And did it change you in some ways, that experience?
Well, the first part of your question, the trust and intimacy thing is always a primary goal of mine when making these type of films. My goal is always to keep myself out of it as much as possible, out of the way. I don't narrate my stuff. I have my characters, my subjects, the people I'm following. They tell their own stories, and I do that through interview. I use interview material as voiceover to do that, and that creates, keeping me out of it also helps create a sense of intimacy. The trust is huge. Again, you're following people over years, so my God, if you don't have their trust, you are screwed. You're in big trouble. And I established a trust by being absolutely as upfront as possible at the start of the project, and I will explain as best I can how I work, what I expect, the kind of access I expect, the kind of contact I expect to, in order to capture events that are happening in their lives. If they're going to feel like, hey, this is going to be a pain in the butt, let's not do this. I mean, we're not going to do it. So it's all about laying it out as much as possible. So for instance, when it came to their wives, the decline, the serious decline in the health of their wives, I mean, it was clear they're going to die. They're going to die during filming. And I thought, you don't want to deal with this question of what can I film when they're dying or when they've just died. You want to do it ahead of time. So I said, and I knew this would be a hard talk because a lot of people don't want to even acknowledge that they're going to die. But I felt like Saul and Ruby, based on the relationship we had and based on who they are, I had a sense that they would be okay with it, even having the discussion. And so I brought it up way before it happened. I said, look, guys, this is possible that your wives are going to die while I'm filming. And I said, I want to know, how do you feel about what can I film? What, are you comfortable with me filming them in the hospital? Are you comfortable with me filming the funeral service? Are there parts of the funeral service you don't want me to film? Are there people in your family that are okay with being filmed? Are there people that are not okay with being filmed? Is the rabbi okay? We went over everything. I went over every detail I could. And I was so glad I did that because there were family members that had issues. So I got to know ahead of time, don't point the camera at this person. Stay away from this person. They are upset. They know ahead of time, I don't want a camera in my face. Keep the camera back. When we're out, when we're actually putting the grave into the earth, don't be right there on the grave. I mean, if they don't tell me that, I'll be right on it. Stand back, stay back. So that establishes trust. Just going through that action instills even more trust. So that's a key part of it. And then, as I said before, taking myself out of it will also create that sense of intimacy. I have to say, Clara was actually difficult to get close to. I would have liked to have gotten more of Clara, and she was very nervous and uncomfortable around the camera, and she wasn't feeling well. She was constantly really not feeling well, and so it's totally understandable. I mean, you're in pain, and she knew she was heading towards death, and she didn't want a camera. I mean, from her perspective, this was the Saul show, and yeah, I filmed some scenes of her going to the doctor that she allowed me to film. Some of that didn't make it into the film, but it was it was difficult dealing with Clara. But the men were complete, and Hannah as well. I mean, Hannah, and that was also for those of you who saw the film, balancing the relationship with Hannah and the two men was also a challenge, because Hannah was a very how can I say this? I mean, just an extremely strong-willed and very strong presence type of person. Also a very big ego, and there was a balancing act that had to go on there. And in the editing process is where you really wrestle with these issues of balance, finding, because as I said, there's 250 hours of footage. You're going to be cutting this down to 80 minutes. I mean, and and just to give you a sense of how you do that, I mean, what you do is you assemble all your footage. Now, there's some footage that you have that like, I really doubt we're going to need this. Let's just push that to the side. But there's many hours, over 100 hours that you are not sure, and so you string it all together. You create these scenes, and you string it together, and then you look at what are the strong scenes, and you start to pull those strong scenes out, and then you start putting them together. And then once you feel like, wow, okay, these are really strong, these are the strongest scenes, then you start thinking about structure. What goes where? Do I want to do a linear structure, or do I want to start? For a long time, I debated, hey, maybe this film should open in Poland. Maybe it should start with them in Poland having this big concert, and then we'll go into a backstory, and we'll lead up to that. I mean, there's so many different ways you can cut this. So so editing took a year. It took a year to edit, which is common for these types of films.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a process. Hetty.
How did you decide to do this? What took you to their story and the desire to film it?
Well, Jerome, I actually explained this earlier, so I'll just say briefly, just for you. I had seen a piece of them in the New York Times. There was a short film on them, and that's how I found them and became attracted to them, and then asked them if I could film the story.
Thank you.
Sure.
So,
Hey.
Todd, I'm not quite sure how to ask the question, but it's about visiting the camps with them, and it's your reaction, how you were doing that visit. I visited Auschwitz a couple years, 3-4 years ago, and I found it was important to just go by myself because I didn't want to take care of anyone else's feelings. And in this situation, you are there with people of enormous feeling, and then there's your own. And maybe we could have a private conversation about that sometime, because it was an experience that I haven't been able to talk to many people about. But I wondered about how you managed that situation.
I think it's a great question. And I know what you're saying about going alone. The first time I went to a concentration camp, it was Dachau, and it was right after high school.
I just wanted to.
I took a couple years off after high school and traveled, and I was in Germany and decided to go to Dachau, and oh my God, I mean that was a profound experience. So to now go with Saul and Ruby I feel so lucky. I mean, that I've had both these experiences, because they are different. I was seeing it through them, and it's strange to be viewing it through a camera lens, because I've actually had a more visceral response going to Dachau, where I wasn't making a film and I was just a young man exploring and looking at things. And it was very direct. Whereas there's always this weird combination when you're making a film of being the observer and having the camera and the viewfinder almost kind of separating you and protecting you in some ways. And at the same time, you're also really thinking deeply about your subjects, about the people who you are filming. And you're thinking about how are they experiencing this, not how am I experiencing it. So I was really focused on them, and their feelings were incredibly complicated. I mean, like I said, I mean, they had feelings of incredible grief and pain, but they also had that scene of them playing their instruments on the tracks of Auschwitz was, I mean, that was an amazing scene. I mean, they were amazed that, like, here we are. And that was such a scene of triumph for them, and strength building, and healing for them, to say, basically, fuck you. You thought you were going to wipe us out. Stephen.
That's right.
I mean, that's what it was. It was a big fuck you. You did not kill us. And now we are playing and dancing and singing on your disgusting tracks. And that was not planned. I mean, that just happened. That just happened. It was one of those moments you're just like, wow, this is something.
It
So,
seemed
yeah, go ahead.
it just seemed to me that these were two really extraordinary guys.
Absolutely.
Brilliant, active, very sure of who they were in themselves, I think.
Yes.
Very extraordinary people in general. And so watching them react, and they had to have been because they both survived.
Yes.
And their survival stories were different.
Correct.
So it was, sort of a privilege to meet these guys.
It was a total privilege.
Yeah.
A total privilege. And someone asked me earlier, I didn't answer, maybe it was Sarah that asked me about how it impacted me filming them or telling this story. And again, I have to say, it brought me close to my roots. I mean, this for me personally was, is a story. Well, it's had such an impact on me. I mean, as a result of COVID, I took some time off from filming, and I decided to apply my storytelling skills to writing. And I've always wanted to write a novel. And I find myself writing a novel. I did not expect this. I was going to write about something completely different. And here I am writing a novel about a kid growing up in Krakow during the war. And I've been inspired by their experiences, their stories, some other research that I've done on some other. There's an amazing diary I got a hold of by Julius Feldman, who died in the camps, but he had written this diary. He's from Krakow, and he records from the day the bombs dropped in Krakow until 1943, and he stuck his diary in a wall before he was killed. And they found it, these workers that were tearing the place down, found his diary. It's a 100-page diary. It's very hard to find, actually. I lucked out, but it's, yeah, this has been a big deal for me personally. It's really brought me in touch with my roots, which feels good. Feels very, very good.
Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
So I've been musing for years with making a trip to Poland.
Yes.
And every time I've gotten close to it, I said, I won't give those anti-Semitic bastards a penny of my money. The hell with it. And so how would you respond to my feelings?
I think you have every right to feel what you feel. I mean, yes, my response is, if you know, if that feels right for you, then that's what you need to do. I mean, the fact is, now, are you referring specifically to the polls?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I've been in Germany 10 times, and I've come to peace with the fact that I think the Germans are no worse than the Americans are vis-a-vis their anti-Semitism today. That's my personal opinion. And so it's an interesting place to go. But Poland,
Oh.
I just think of them and 3 million of them gone, and the people in Poland working in the camps and happy to have Hitler's money. It just strikes me as, and I know Margot is one of our members who's not here today, but she came from Poland. She was born in 1946. She left there when she was 18 or 19 years old because she couldn't stand the anti-Semitism.
Yeah, you know, it's a very mixed bag in Poland now, because I mean, their concert is a testament to how things have changed there. I mean, there were 2,000 people, young and old, listening to their Klezmer music when we were there in Warsaw, and they were totally into it. And these were not Jewish people.
And that's what brought on my question.
Pardon me?
That's what brought on my question.
Yeah, yeah. So, and there's even, I mean, look, there's always plenty of anti-Semitism to go around. Whatever country you're in, there's always something. But it also became a fad in Poland, where people were really trying to find any kind of Jewish connection that they had, and they take pride in it. And this has been also, so yeah, it's a mixed bag in Poland. I want to take a pause. It's 3:45, and I told you there was going to be a surprise guest. I'm going to try and get him. I got a hold of Saul, and I'm going to try and bring him on. So so Shoshana sent him the link, and he can't get on the link because he doesn't have help right now to do it. So I'm going to FaceTime him. I've never done this before, but I'm going to try and get him up on my phone, FaceTime him, and I'll hold my phone up, and let's see if that works. Okay. So hold on. Let me see here. Saul. Let me call him. See if he picks up.
Hello.
Okay, Saul.
Yeah.
Saul, I'm going to put you on FaceTime. Here we go. Can you click on your FaceTime?
Hold it 1 second. Hold it. Hold it. I am on FaceTime now.
Okay. Oh, you can see him. Okay, here's Saul.
You see me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can. Hello.
Hi, Saul. It's an honor to meet you.
Hello, Saul.
Saul.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you see them, Saul? Can you see them?
I see a lady on the left.
Good-looking lady. Yeah.
I see you in the middle. Pat.
Uh-huh.
I see another lady below another lady.
Okay.
I see a lady in the middle. I see a lady on the right, a lady in the middle. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My God, 6, 7 ladies.
There's some guys there too.
There's a guy there too.
All right.
All right, they're gonna ask you a question.
Well, let them make sure that they ask the right question.
Well, you don't have to answer any of the questions if you don't like.
I'm gonna answer every question.
Okay, go for it. So, do any of you have a question, or one of the first questions he usually entertains, if you want, is just explaining how he formed the band. But if some of you have other questions, go for it. I want you to have an opportunity.
How did you feel about setting foot in Poland?
What?
How would you feel about setting foot in Poland?
Did you feel?
Well, I got news for you. It happens that I went to Poland 3 or 4 times. I went to Poland when the Russian was still there, 1989, with my wife and my son, first time. I was very disappointed because everything was closed. There was no food, no nothing, and didn't matter. The second time, I went with my whole family, but we supposed to go east to the city where my wife was born, and we missed the visa by 1 day. Supposed to go San Francisco, so I was very disappointed. And then my nephew lost his passport with a ticket, so altogether we had trouble. So I forgot the second time. The third time when I went to film with Tod to do the documentary, I went alone, and my wife already wasn't around, so I went alone. I didn't see my house the last 2 times wherever I lived when I was a boy, and something made me to go there. Tod follows us, and I froze right in the entrance to the building. I got chills. I don't want to go. I didn't want to see nothing because my whole family, my mother, my father, my sister were in front of my eyes. So I lay on the wall downstairs, and I didn't bed because I was living on the 2nd floor. I supposed to go step out. I never went. And Tod filmed that. Remember that?
Oh yeah, that was
Yep.
powerful.
This was my voices thing in Poland.
Are you still playing in your band?
How I put together the band?
No, are you still playing?
Are you still playing? Is your band still playing?
On the 29th of this month, I'm going to be 96 years old, and I play the band. If you want me, you can see me playing it, but they're gonna have, my girl has to hold the telephone so you can see what I'm doing.
You don't have to do that. That's too much.
I'd love to know, how does it feel to watch somebody else tell your story? You know, you spent all these hours and hours getting filmed and having these personal moments kind of shared. What is it like then when it's done and you see somebody else tell your story through their eyes?
So, you have to repeat the question because I couldn't pick it up.
She wanted, that's a great question.
Yes.
Her name's Louisa, and she wanted to know what it was like for you to see your story filmed through someone else's eyes. Well, to
be honest with you, I was sad and I was happy, except one thing. There was a lot of more things that's supposed to go there, but unfortunately, you know, a producer or a director, they don't want to go over an hour and a half because people get bored regardless what they're looking at. So we missed a lot of stuff. We missed a lot of good stuff, but unfortunately, maybe Tod gonna decide to make number B. I would help him.
very good, Saul. Yeah, I think, Louisa, that is one of the hardest things for people who I've filmed. Yeah, looking at the film is like, oh my God, there was this scene and that scene, and you know, that's the hard part. Yeah, it's hard.
But unfortunately, you know, everything's got a limit. If I go to the movies, it's the best film could it be. After an hour and a half, I get bored.
Right. Right.
So next question, girls.
Yeah.
Have you been to Israel?
What?
Have you been to Israel?
Oh, many, many times. I have a son who lives in Israel. My son, I tell you a story. My son went to Israel to study in university. And he was studying. Eventually, I wanted to come home. So what happened? I came and I took him to come back home. He was already finishing college. And what happened the same night that I made a party, leaving home with my son, the lights in Tel Aviv broke out in the hotel all over. We didn't have no lights, and my party finished in dark pitch, without lights. This was an episode. I have been to Israel, girls, in 1967 war. I was one of 9 Jews. 2-3 days left after the war, I was filming from the Suez Canal. I was on the Suez Canal with the Israeli army in the bunkers. I was first Jew.
Wow.
From America to be at the Suez Canal after the war.
Wow. Well, you've been to Israel.
Yeah, but I traveled. The last time I was in Israel was 2 years ago. My son had a baby boy, and I flew for 4 days to the bris. You know what a bris is?
Yeah.
They know what a
Yeah.
Jews. They know what a bris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the bris, and I had to go back home. I had 3 engagements. One in Detroit, I remember, and one in Pennsylvania, and I had to be back home because without me, no concert. You understand?
Yes.
Yes.
This is 2 years ago?
True.
2 years ago, this was.
Girls, could you notice my head?
Yes.
Yes.
It's got Hebrew letters.
Could you read in Hebrew? It's in Hebrew. You know what it says? Tod, explain it to them. Gators. I went to Gainesville for the Yom HaShoah, so they gave me a gift. With Hebrew Gators. I was playing for the, how you call it, for the Jewish organization there.
Saul, when you think about your legacy, how do you want people to remember you? What do you want people to remember about you?
I tell you truly, if you're talking about, I start crying because I got so many things to think about me that I don't know even where to start. I got one editor from the Jewish newspaper in Fort Lauderdale finally decided very possible he's going to start to write my book.
But what do you want people to remember you? What is it?
I want people to remember how honest I was when I was a Holocaust survivor. How much I worked against I'm still working against the anti-Semitism all over the world. How much I play for people. I give my heart, my soul, everything. People should be happy with our music when we play. Every time I was sitting by the drums and saw that crowd, gave me so much happiness you can imagine.
Yeah. See, that's the part of the healing I was talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I got this for you. I'm healing and healing and I heal until I die. That's a natural thing about the Holocaust survivors because I don't remember what I ate for breakfast, but I remember what I did 75 years ago.
I'll bet. But
Saul, can you put your face better on the screen?
Yes. How about now?
Can you put the phone farther back? Yeah. Okay.
Better?
Yeah.
Well, you're a super mensch.
You're a supermensch. You've been called.
I beg your pardon?
You were just called a supermensch.
Yes.
Yeah. You agree.
I want to make sure they ask me a couple of questions that I can really converse on it. I wonder if they can come up with something.
Is there something you want to share?
Well, I would like to tell him, to make him a little happy, how I put together the Holocaust survivor there.
Tell them. How did you put this thing together?
Fair enough. One morning, I woke up. My wife was still sleeping. It was to be 6 o'clock. And I went to my den. And then by then, I got my office, my computer. And I opened the computer and started to read the news. All of a sudden, a say came out on the computer, and I started to look at it. It says a woman, 108 years old, passed away, a very important piano player. So I started to dig into it. I said, who is she? Finally, I find out that she was a Holocaust survivor. She survived Theresienstadt. Theresienstadt was a concentration camp that was the German propaganda. They kept the Jews, almost they killed them all. But during the war, whoever came to visit, find out how they're treating people, how they're treating prisoners, Germans took him to Theresienstadt. Over there they had music, people were dressed in suits, no uniform, no nothing. And she passed away. And as much I read about it, that she survived, her husband perished, and she survived with a child, with a son. She went to Israel. The son became a famous cello player. And she went back to England, to London, and was living in an apartment. And every afternoon she was playing the piano. Till finally, when she reached 108 years old, she passed away. So I told myself that 350 million people in the United States, and I'm gonna come with the idea that I hope that it's gonna happen. And what happened? I went and oh my God, I had to put together a Holocaust survivor band. And I woke up my wife. No, she maybe doesn't sleep, and I told her the same story I told you now about Mrs. Summers. So she says, Saul, you're crazy. I was at that time I was retired. I was 19. How old I was? Tod, you keep the score. And he was 89.
91?
I was 89.
No, you were
right?
89. You were 89.
Right.
It was a year before I met
So
you. Yeah.
my wife tells me I'm crazy. So this was on a Thursday. Saturday, I belonged to a Reform Synagogue. You know why? Because 30 years ago I had cancer, and I became a very religious Jew because I'm going to break all the laws. So I'm very reformed. So I went to my services, and after the services, we play music there, and it's Shabbat. After the service, we had Kiddush and lunch. Everybody hears me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We had Kiddush and lunch. After Kiddush and lunch, I sat down to have my lunch. Next to me is sitting my rabbi. He's also a child of a Holocaust survivor from Canada. As a matter of fact, his father was the founder of the ATM machines in Canada. You know what the ATM machines are?
ATM.
You borrow money. You borrow money. You know, you put your money from a machine. Anyway, and I told him the same story I told you, and I told my wife. So he talks to me with a Jewish accent. So you're 89 years old. You're 10 years retired. What you need it for? He says, "Bis Michigan." Also, I'm Jewish. You crazy? And that's got me under my heart. My rabbi and my wife told me that I'm crazy. I don't believe so. This was on a Shabbat. Monday morning, I took a blank check in my pocket, and not far away from me, but I would say a mile, is one of the chain stores that they sell all the musical instruments. Sam Ash, maybe you heard about it, all over the world. And I walk in, and I look around, and I call the salesman. I says, I would like to buy a completely drum set. He looks to me like a crazy old man comes in to buy a drum set, 90 years old. Finally, I bought it. So it came in packages. They brought them for the warehouse. I hired a man there. I gave him a few dollars. He opened the packages. At that time, I was driving a very small Lexus, a 4-door, the small one, the number 300. So what had happened, I loaded up the trunk, I loaded up the back seat, and the top on the roof next to me when I drive, and I'm going home, and I'm a proud music player, a proud drummer, and I come home with the whole drums. I come home, I leave the car downstairs, parking. I come upstairs, ask my wife, where were you? I said, I was here. What do you mean, where were you? You're running around, I didn't see you for 3 hours. I says, Clara, I went shopping and I brought you a present. When she heard I brought a present, she closed her mouth a little bit. She didn't give me no trouble. So she says, where's the present? So I tell my wife, tell you the truth. the president is downstairs because it's a little big and I'm too tired to carry it. I'm an old man. So she says, you know what? I'm going to go downstairs. I want to see the president. You bought me. My wife. She comes downstairs. I open the doors and everything. She sees the drums. She yells, "Oi, give out! Either you go or the drums go." Now I had a problem. I got a wife. I got a wife, a friend, and everything. And here she's throwing me the divorce in front of for my legs. So finally, I met up with her. But it's not the end. Now I have to show what I can do with my drums. So I call my rabbi. And the rabbi I want to rent the synagogue. The synagogue holds maybe 300-400 people. He says, "Will you want to rent that synagogue?" So I says, "Rabbi, I want to make a concert. I'm going to make a dual concert." Next door to us was a Brazilian church, which I knew the pastor very well. So I talked to the pastor and I told him, "I want to rent you an orchestra." So I made a deal. I went to the rabbi and I said, "Rabbi, I want to rent the room and everything." He says, "Fine." And I took and I rented both things. I rented the orchestra from the pastor. I rented the synagogue with the bima. And also I rented a sound man. And the rabbi said, "Are you going to do it, Saul?" I said, "I'm going to put a sign in front of the synagogue and I put it in the paper. How much you going to charge?" I said, "I'm going to charge nothing." He says, "How? Well, you crazy? You're spending so much money." I said, "Rabbi, if I'm going to charge money, nobody going to show up. If I don't charge, people going to show up and find out who I am."
Yeah.
And that's what happened. This was my first start playing the Holocaust survivor band.
That's great. That's great.
Wonderful.
Saul. That's great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Saul. We are just so lucky and so happy that you could share your story with us. And Todd, I can see how much fun you had even filming.
Oh, boy.
You can see.
Yes.
Yes.
You repeat, it's very hard to listen.
Oh, they were just saying, she was thanking you, Saul. And she was thanking you. And
I thank them what they do in Uganda and tell them I thank them that they have I got the opportunity to say a few words to them. I'm very happy about it.
would you like to go to Uganda at some point? He'll go, Shoshana.
Oh, you got it! Yay! I would love for you to go to Uganda.
He will go.
I bring a couple musicians over there. I would
He
hire
will.
a couple and I would give them a beautiful concert.
And I'll go film it. And you'll
And
have
we-
a little...
And yes, and we'll have drums ready for you, everything. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
When you ask me, people ask me, "Saul, would you want to go to Poland and play?" I said, "Yes." And what happened? I was in Poland twice, 3 times. I played with the concert. I played with Udo Fischer. I played with Jet Elbas. I spent a lot of time in Poland playing, and everybody knows that I am a Holocaust survivor.
Yes.
And I tell the girls I got a slogan, and I want them to repeat it wherever they go. Never again, never again, never again.
All right, Saul, thank you. My arm's about to fall off.
And if you want me to come to Uganda, they have got no problem. I'm going to be flying with the first plane.
Okay.
Okay.
Saul, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Wow.
And happy birthday to you.
Oh, happy birthday.
And they
Happy
wish you happy
birthday.
birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Saul.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh my God, thank you so much for the surprise. Well, I knew
Yeah.
about it, but I just didn't want to announce because I didn't know if it was going to be on or not.
He's a hell of a lot more entertaining than me. I
Yeah.
had to
That
end
was
with, I
terrific.
had to end with a
Oh,
punch
that's
with this.
energy. Yeah.
You see his energy. I mean,
Oh my God.
God.
he's going to be 96. I mean, it's
He
insane.
would have talked another hour if we let him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
And we would have listened.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So he left Israel because he couldn't stay with his son. because he had 3 dates in America to play, and he was only 94.
Say that again?
He left America. He left Israel, where he was visiting his son, if I understood the story right, because he had 3 dates to play in America, in Detroit. I don't know, he said Chicago, I think, somewhere.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's what, you know, he and his band had dates lined up.
Yeah.
And he did this 2 years ago when he was 94.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this guy is so spectacular.
It is.
It's an inspiration.
Unbelievable.
Inspiration.
So inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, Todd.
Yeah.
Thank you for involving him in today's event with you.
Sure. Sure.
That was great.
It was. I've never done this before. Put him on a FaceTime, but it worked.
It works very well. What's funny is when he dropped it, he just picked it up. He leaned over. Whatever he did like he was 27. He just. It was wonderful. Just wonderful.
Yeah.
Yep. And he's very sincere, you know, like I think one of the moments was when somebody called him, "You're my brother," and he broke down. He was really like very sincere with the love and, you know, visiting people and talking to them and feeling happy about it. And I just, like, for me, I think a lot of people, I was like, when he visited the presidential place, I was like, oh, why do they call him? Do they just want to show off or whatever? But he wanted to be there and he was happy to tell them the story. And I think with Ruby, and
yeah,
it was just a different feeling.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you,
what,
all for
Shosha?
having me.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Todd.
Yeah.
But isn't that the blessing of it, Shoshana? That's how you take something, a tragedy, a trauma, and turn it into a blessing.
Exactly.
By doing that. And Todd, I want to thank you. I didn't get an opportunity to watch the movie yet. I will watch it.
Good.
And you are an amazing storyteller, because from your description and your discussion, I was able to get the essence of what the movie was. And
only the beginning, Barbara.
Thank you.
yeah. And do you have a degree in psychology?
No, I don't. My sister
Could have fooled me.
No, but I've been to enough. I've had enough psychology on myself. Maybe I am an expert in psychology.
You are very, very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Barbara.
I'm a mental health and wellness therapist.
Oh, wow. Okay, then that means even more that I'm getting a compliment from a person like yourself. Thank you.
Oh, Todd, thank you so much. There is a documentary that I wanted to watch about that woman that was just Saul just mentioned. Summer, her name is Summer Hertz or something.
Alice Summers Hertz.
The lady in number 6.
Yes.
And would you recommend that as far as?
Yes. It won the Oscar for Best Short. It's a
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was going to watch that tonight. And
watch it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
beautiful.
We'll do that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film. And then
Well,
you'll see why he was so inspired by her.
Yeah, she's inspired by her.
She's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Todd. I so
Sure.
appreciate you.
Todd, I have one last thought for you.
Yes, Steve.
Watching Saul just now, you wonder how any person on earth could hate a Jewish man. If that was I mean, it's just like, how can you do nothing but love that man?
Yeah.
Right.
I hear you. How do you kill people like that? It's
Right.
my problem.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you, Shoshana.
Pleasure. Thanks, Shoshana.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come and talk with us. It was it was very nice of you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And
I can't wait to see the film about him in Uganda.
Yes. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I can talk about that, Shoshana.
Yeah.
And the outtakes trailer.
Yeah. Okay,
Wow.
you guys. Thanks off.
Hi. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
We'll wrap it up with our usual Havdalah. And if you would like to get your candles, we'll give each other maybe a minute if you want to grab your Havdalah kit so we can continue.
Shoshana, while we're doing that, thank you so much for bringing him to us. This was terrific, absolutely terrific.
Yeah, I thought so. I love the movie, and I just remember that I went to another one of Todd's films downtown in Chicago. I just forgot when he followed a couple, I think 3 African American men like through school, and I remember that I went to do that there. So in the link, like the link that we sent out there, like, all his projects and all his movies and everything that he has worked on. If you want to see other.
And how did you come to know him?
So I know him through Jill, who is Todd's mother, who is right here, and through Hedy, who is my friend that I lived with in Evanston. And so we've known each other for many, many years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Good friends. Yeah. Yeah.
Jill, you must be very proud.
Oh, wait. Jill, unmute yourself if you're saying something. We couldn't hear you.
Just responding that I am very proud of him.
As you should be.
All right, if we are ready, we'll start with Kiddush. Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam bore puri hagafen bore puri hagafen ya dai dai da da dai dai da dai dai da da dai 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 da da dai dai da da dai da da dai ya dai dai da da dai dai ya dai dai da da dai 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 da da dai dai da da dai da da dai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam bore mine besamim bore mine besamim ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 Dai dai da da dai dai da da dai da da dai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam bore meorei haesh bore meorei haesh Ya dai dai da da dai dai da dai dai da da dai 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 da da dai dai da da dai da da dai ya dai dai da da dai dai ya dai dai da da dai 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 da da dai dai da da dai da da dai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael amim ben yom hashvi לששת ימי המעשה ברוך אתה אדוני המבדיל בין קודש לחול. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi. Bimheira beyameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David. Miriam Hanevia, Oz vezimra beyada, Miriam tilkod itanu, Lechavdil zimrat olam. Miriam tilkod itanu, Letaken et haolam. Bimheira veyameinu, Hitevienu, El mei ha-Yeshua, El mei ha-Yeshua. And we can unmute if you would like to sing together Shavua Tov. Shavua Tov,
Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov.
A week of peace, gladness reign, and joy increase.
Good week, a week of peace.
With gladness reign and joy increase.
Shavua Tov, everybody. Thank you.
Shavua Tov. Thank you,
Shavua
Shoshana. That was great.
Have a wonderful week.
And Shoshana, thank you so much for bringing us.
Thank you, Shoshana.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
thank you. It was a wonderful
That was
program.
really great.
Thank you. It was wonderful. I love the movie. I love Saul and Robbie. And so,
Oh, Margot, there you are. You're a little late.
Was it great?
I recorded it, so I'm gonna get.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah,
I
great.
didn't get the first few minutes, but I'll get Amy to put it up on our website.
Well, I can access it from the Zoom. That's great.
Yeah, you can look at it from the Zoom.
Yeah,
Bye,
I wanted
Very
to
nice meeting you.
wanted to be there, and didn't work, and I really wanted to. Okay, great. I'm glad that you recorded it. Thank you.
Okay.
all right. Bye,
It was
everybody.
special.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.